Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be showing us how I made this beautiful senator top for a male child, and trust me, it's very easy to make. So kindly watch this video to the end. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share and subscribe to our channel. Let's get straight into the tutorial. So guys, the first thing we're going to be doing is to fold our fabric in two. Right here I have 9 inches, and to get the fold you need for drafting your panels, all you have to do is to divide the highest part of your measurement by 4, then you add your sewing allowance. So for this, the highest part of my measurement is the hip measurement, so I went ahead to divide it into 4 plus 2 inches. So that 2 inches includes both my seam allowance and the ease allowance as well. Okay, so that is what made it 9 inches. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to get the length of our back panel. I'll be cutting the back panel first, and the actual length of our top is 17 inches. I added 1 inch for folding allowance, then 2 inches extra. Now the back panel is always longer than the front panel, so for this back panel I'm going to be cutting out 20 inches long. Okay, so I'm going to be marking this and I'll cut it out. So for the front panel, we're going to be repeating the same thing we did for the back. We're going to be getting our fold as well with the same measurement we did for the back panel. Okay, I have 9 inches as well. Then the length I'm going to be cutting is 18 inches. That is 17 inches plus our 1 inch for folding. Now with time, I'm going to explain to you the reason why the back panel is actually longer than the front. Okay, so first we are going to be cutting out 18 inches and we are going to set it aside as well. So guys, I'm going to be placing the front panel on top of the back panel, and can you see that the difference we have here is just 2 inches. So I'm going to be bringing this down and I'm going to zoom it so you see what we are doing properly. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to place my neck measurements. Okay, the neck measurement I'm working with is 2 inches for the length and 2 inches for the depth. Then for the back panel, we are marking 2 inches for the length as well. Then the depth of this is going to be just 1 inch. Okay, I'm going to be connecting these necklines together. So first I'm connecting for the front neckline, then I'll go ahead and connect for the back neckline. So after that, we are going to be placing our shoulder measurement, and for the shoulder we are working with a shoulder of 13 inches and divided by 2, that is going to give us 6.5, right? But we are going to be making it 7 inches because we need that ½ inch for armhole joining. So I'm going to be marking 7 inches and I'll place 7 inches as well for the back panel. Remember, I'm doing this separately, okay? But there are better ways you can actually do this, but I'm just doing this so you understand properly. Then for the shoulder slant, I'm going to be marking 1 inch. You can actually decide to use 0.75 since it's a child, or depending on the age, you can go as low as 1.5. But for this, I'll be maintaining the 1 inch. Then I'm going to be connecting my shoulder slant. And I'll repeat the same thing for the front as well. Okay, so after we are done marking this, now let me explain the reason why the back is actually longer. Is because the back panel is meant to fold towards the front panel. Okay, like if you notice in shirts, you see that for male shirts, the shoulder is not always aligned. It actually tilts to the front a bit. Okay, so that's the reason why we made the back panel longer. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to get my armhole depth. And for the armhole, I divided the armhole circumference by 2, and that is 5.5. Then I'm going to be placing 1 inch on the shoulder slant for the front. Remember, by the time we fold the back panel, the one that is going to be coming to the front is just 1 inch. So that 1 inch, I'm placing that 1 inch on our shoulder slant. All right. Then I'm going to be marking my armhole depth, or my chest line rather. So I'm going to be marking this across. Now the next measurement I'm going to be placing is my hip measurement. Remember, everything I'm measuring is just on the front panel, okay? For now, just exclude the back panel, because the only thing we've marked on the back panel is our shoulder slants and our neckline. So every other measurement is coming from the front panel. All right. After that, I'm going to be placing the waist measurement and the hip measurement, and I'm going to be marking them across. All right. But I actually forgot to place the hip measurement because my fold already has the hip measurements. But you can go ahead and place yours, then put in the measurements. For a male dress is not really curvy, unlike the female dress. All right. So back to the chest line, what I'm going to be doing is to connect a straight line from my chest line to the slanted line. So I'm going to zoom this so you'll see what I'm doing. All right. Then I'm going to be placing 1 inch on that slanted line, just the way we did it earlier. Then I'm going to fold this to get the midpoint of the armhole. Then I'm going to be coming in by 1/2 inch as well. Then when I'm done, I'm going to be connecting my curve. But to get your curve, you need to impute your chest line circumference. All right. So the chest line we are using is the same as the waistline, and what we have is 8.5. That is 6.5 plus 2 inches. That is 8.5. All right. And we are going to be connecting this. But now watch the way I place this ruler, this curved ruler. I'm connecting that slant straight to the back line, to the back panel. Can you see? I'm connecting it straight to the slanted line of the back panel right here. Okay, and I connected it all the way. I hope you really understand what I'm doing. All right, so after that, I'm going to be marking my hip line as usual. I'm going to be marking the hip line on the hem line. I'm going to be connecting a straight line. Okay, so this is the actual measurement. Actually, the measurement I'm working with is almost the same because it's for a child, and kids, they're not that curvy. So now to make this to have a bit of curve, just to look like, you know, to give that fitting, from the waistline I'm coming in by just 1/2 inch, and I'm connecting it all the way down. All right, you can decide to skip this part, whatever. Even if it's straight, it still gives you the same fitting, but I just wanted to have a bit of fitting on the child. All right, so the next thing we're going to be doing is to cut this out, then we'll get straight to the next step. So I wanted to point out something. Can you see, after cutting our shoulder slant, all I did here is to place 1/2 inch of the back panel on top of the front panel. Okay, I'm overlapping it, making sure 1/2 inch is overlapped inside the front panel. Okay, that is going to serve as our shoulder joining. Now if I'm going to measure from here to our armhole, can you see we still have the same 5.5, which was the reason why we placed 1 inch on our front panel shoulder slant earlier. All right, so by the time we are done joining this and we fold this over, we still have our armhole complete. All right, so let's continue with the cutting. The next thing we're going to be doing is to cut the facing for the front and the back. So I'm taking the front aside and cutting the back facing first, and I'm using this plain black fabric for the facing on the back. So I'm going to be placing this like so, making sure the mid parts meet each other. Then I went ahead to trim this black fabric just to make sure I have a straight line at the bottom. After trimming the black fabric, the next thing I did was to measure 1.5 at the chest line. So this is going to serve as a hem allowance for the black fabric. Then we are going to go ahead and cut this out. So once I'm done cutting this out, let me show you what it's going to look like. The black fabric is going to be laying on the right side of our back panel, just like this. And the 1.5 we left earlier is for folding it inwards, because we're going to be folding it like so. We're going to iron this and sew it down just at the right side. All right, so let's move to the front. So for the front panel, the facing we are going to be cutting is just the same as what we did for the back. All right, so I'm going to be placing this, making sure the mid part meets, and I'm going to be cutting it just the same way we did for the back panel. Once I'm done cutting this, I'm going to be placing the front neckline extension. So I'll be marking 3 inches and I'm going to be slashing it open both on the lining and on the fabric itself, that is the front panel. So this is going to enable the child's head to pass through the dress. Okay, the next thing I'm going to be measuring is the placket length, and what I'm going to be working with is 6 inches plus 1 inch for folding allowance. Okay, so this is the piece I'm using for the placket, and the width is 4 inches while the length is 7 inches. Remember, what we need is 6 inches. The remaining 1 inch is for the joining for the upper parts and the lower part as well. So I went ahead to fold the placket and I'm going to be pinning it down to my dress. Then I'm going to be setting this aside. The next thing we are going to be cutting is the sleeve. So you can actually make use of the black fabric for the sleeve, or you use your African print. For this, I'm using the African print, and I've gone ahead to fold this fabric in 4 because I'm cutting the both sleeves together. So if you do not know how to cut a basic sleeve, we have a tutorial up on our channel on how to cut a basic sleeve. So kindly watch it and follow due process. So I marked a border line and I went ahead to mark my armhole divided by 4. I'm going to be rolling this line across. After which, I'm going to be marking the length of the sleeve you're working with plus the hemming allowance. So right now I'm imputing my sleeve circumference, right? Then here I'm going to be imputing my biceps divided by 2, and I'm going to be marking these lines together. So before I mark that, I'm going to be adding my side seam allowance. Alright, then I went ahead to roll the slanted line just to create the curves for the armhole. For the sewing process, I'm going to be flipping my fabric over to the wrong side. Okay, so this is the wrong side of my back panel. Then for the black, I'm placing the right side on the wrong side of my fabric. Can you see? So this is the right side, this is the wrong side. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew 1/2 inch on the neckline. Okay, I'll sew 1/2 inch on the neckline, turn it over and top stitch on the neckline. So guys, I've gone ahead to sew the neckline and I notched it already. So I'm going to be turning it over. Before I top stitch, I just want to show you what it's going to look like. Can you see how the black fabric is going to be laying on the right side of our fabric? Okay, so this is how it's going to look like. Then we are going to top stitch this, give it a good press and fold 1/2 inch for the black fabric. So right here, this is what we have. I've gone ahead to top stitch on the neckline. Okay, then I took this to the ironing table, I pressed it flat and I folded 1 inch on this black fabric. Okay, then after folding this, I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew it down on the fabric. So we are done sewing this, and can you see how flat it's looking? Now kindly note that we've not locked the armhole for this top. We are going to be needing this to turn the shoulders of our top. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to be working on is the front panel. For the front panel, we are going to be sewing on the right side of our fabric. So we are going to be placing the facing, right side facing the right side. Okay, then we are going to go ahead and draw a guideline on the slashed part. So this is the part we slashed earlier. So I'm going to be marking 0.25 on both sides, or you can actually decide to make it ½ inch on both sides. All right, so I'm marking this, then I'm coming down by just ½ inch or 1 inch below that slashed line. Okay, and I'm going to be connecting the lines together. Now we are going to take this to our sewing machine, and this is the order in which we are going to be sewing. I'm going to be sewing ½ inch on the neckline. I'll come down to the line we marked, curve it, go up again, and finish up on the other neckline. So everything I'm going to be sewing is just ½ inch. All right, then after that we are going to notch it and turn it over. So right here we are done sewing this. Can you see how it's looking? Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to notch these stitches. So I'm going to be showing you how I do my notches. So you're going to be notching this like this. Make sure you're not cutting your stitches. So I'm going to do this also for the slashed part. Now when we get to this edged part, please kindly take note of how I notched this. From one end, okay, notch it. Make sure you do not touch the stitches. Then I'll go over and notch this other part as well. Okay, this is going to enable your turning. It's going to make your turning very easy. So even when you turn your fabric, you won't be having all those rough turns. I don't know how to explain this, but when you turn this fabric, everything is going to be laying flat and it's going to be very easy. So we're going to turn this, so you're going to see what I'm talking about. So guys, can you see how this is looking? Right, now we are going to take this to the ironing table and we are going to be pressing it. Then when we are done pressing it, we'll now go over to working on the placket. So we are done with the ironing, and can you see how flat it's looking? And it's coming out really nice, right? So the next thing we're going to be doing is to be working on the placket. So for the placket, remember what we cut earlier was 4 inch for the width. So by the time we take out 1 inch for this joining allowance, we're going to be left with just 3 inches. For the placket, we are going to be stitching on the wrong side of our fabric. So I'm going to be folding the right side this way, then I'll take this to my sewing machine and sew just 1 inch, then I'll lock up ½ inch down. Okay, so I've gone ahead to do that. I sewed ½ inch there and 1 inch. Then I'm going to be turning this around. Kindly note that the upper part is still open, so this is going to enable us to turn our placket inside out. So I'm already turning this, and I'll go ahead with my scissors to make sure I bring out all the edges and make sure it's flat. Okay, so once I'm done doing this, I'll take it to the ironing table and I'm going to give this a very good press. Once I'm done ironing this, I went ahead to sew just 0.25 at one edge of my placket. Right, I only did it for one edge. This is going to create a balance by the time we are done installing the other side. So let me go and do this immediately. So I'm done sewing 0.25 on the placket, and I'll go ahead and place this on the front panel. Now I'm placing this on the front panel. I make sure the 0.25 we sewed initial is facing the open part of our placket. Alright, then I make sure the edge of the neckline aligns properly. So kindly note, the placket that is facing up is the edge we locked earlier, while the down part is the open side. Okay, so I'm going to hold this down, then I'm going to go ahead and sew 0.25 as well at the other edge right here. Okay, I'm going to sew this, and when I get to this hem, I'm going to be folding in 1/2 inch inwards, then I'm going to lock it up. All right, so I'm going to repeat this so you understand. From this part, I'm going to be sewing. I'm going to first of all fold 1/2 inch at the hem of the placket. Can you see this? Here is locked, right? Then I'm going to fold this 1/2 inch. We're going to fold this, then we are going to be sewing 0.25 from here all the way down, then we're going to lock it up. All right, so guys, kindly note that before I sew down my placket, I went ahead to fold the facing like this. I folded 1 inch inwards and I sewed it down. You can further go ahead and use your hemming gum to hold this in place before sewing your placket. So guys, I've gone ahead to sew the placket down, and this is what it looks like. Okay, then the open part, you can put your press button. Now I'm going to be placing the front panel and the back panel together, the front facing each other. Then I'm going to be holding the shoulders. That's why we left the armhole open, we didn't lock it down. Now I'm going to be placing the mid part of the shoulders together, making sure the stitched part meets each other, just to give me that very clean seam. Then I'm going to be pinning this down, then I'll take it to my sewing machine and I'll sew 1/2 inch across. So having done that, can you see how our shoulder looks? It's looking very clean and properly aligned. Can you see this? So all the seams falls in between the facing. Now the next thing we are going to do, I'm going to be bringing this down to make sure it meets. Okay, then I want to show you this shoulder. Can you see how it's overlapping the front? This is the reason why we made the back panel longer. Now the next thing I'm going to be doing is to take my armhole and I'm going to be locking up the stitches, because right now we don't need to go into the shoulders any longer. So I'll take this my sewing machine and I'm going to be sewing down the armhole, and I'll do the same for the other part as well. Now let's quickly look at what we have before we proceed to the next step. Can you see how our top is coming out looking beautiful like a baby boy's wear? So this is looking so clean, and we've gone ahead to lock the armhole as well. Now the next thing we are going to be doing is to be folding the hem. So I'm taking in 1 inch, all right, 1/2 inch first, then 1/2 inch again, then I'll take this to the sewing machine and sew it. So guys, this is what it looks like. We are done sewing this, then I'm going to be flipping this over to lock the sides up. All right, so I'll go ahead and sew this, leaving 4 inch from the hem. This is going to serve as an opening. Okay, so this is what I meant. I left from the hem, I left 4 inches. The same thing for this side. Okay, so this is going to serve as a slit, just to allow the dress lap properly. Then I'm going to be folding the slits just like so, and I'll go ahead and I'll sew it all round. So let me do that immediately. So I've gone ahead to do that, and I'm going to be showing you how I sew this. Can you look at these edges? I sewed all the way from here, curved, and I came back. Okay, and I did the same thing for the other side. The next thing we are going to be adding is the sleeve, and we've gone ahead to fold the hem. All right, then I've actually notched the mid part of my sleeve as well. Now I want us to note something. While inserting your sleeve, we are no longer using the joint part on our shoulder. Our new shoulder edge is here, so we are going to be notching it. So this is where we are going to be attaching our sleeve from. This particular edge we are notching now is considered at the midpoint of our armhole. Okay, then I went ahead to open this up a bit so it can actually allow me to fix my sleeve properly. Now I'm going to be placing the notched part of my sleeve to the notched part of my shoulder, and I'm going to pin this all around, taking to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew this. So once you're done pinning and joining the armholes together, we are going to be turning this inside out just to lock up the seams. Alright, so this is what I have here. I'm going to be holding this together, making sure the armhole stitch meets each other. Then I'm going to be sewing my side seam allowance on the sleeve all the way to the chest line. Okay, so guys, this is the finished look of our top. If you really got value from this video, kindly give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share this tutorial and subscribe to our channel. Alright, this is the end look of our top and it's looking so fine and pretty. You can go ahead and give this a good press, then package it, and don't forget to put your press buttons as well. If you have any question concerning this tutorial, kindly ask in the comment section. If you have any suggestions, kindly drop as well, as we're going to be there to answer all questions and take suggestions. Alright, thank you. See you in the next video. Bye.